Menus and tips for nutritional renewal. This is a Google Hangout that you can find on my Meetup channel. If you go to meetup.com, you can join Sarasota/Venice area health, nutrition, and fitness group. And there you will find a calendar that allows you to see all the events in the area that we are having to do with renewing your nutritional protocols and the ways that you're living in your life by exercise, by gathering with other people who are wonderful company and support. These days, people need a lot of support. So there are many events in the Meetup group we have where people can gather, learn information about health, and actually do some socializing together. So I invite you to join. You can go to my renewal on my website channel. If you go to meetup.com, you can join. You go to Sarasota/Venice area health, nutrition, and fitness Venice area. And there you will find a calendar that allows you to see all the events in the area that we're having, that allows you to do with renewing. Somehow we're having technical difficulties. So let me see if I can stop the broadcasting. There's an echo that's funny. Let me see what I can do about that. We have many people can gather, learn information about health, or people can actually do some socializing about health. So I invite you to join. You can go to my website channel. You can go to meetup.com and join Sarasota/Venice. Give me just a moment. I can hear a few too many echoes. It will be hard to understand unless I can find a way to shut some of this down. Broadcasting. There's an echo that's funny. Let me see what I can do about that. People can gather information about health. People can actually do some socializing about health. Let me see. Very good. I think we now have, do we have sound? We should have sound. And I think we're live now. There was an uncanny bunch of echoes going on, so I just want to start again. Today we are presenting some menus and tips for nutritional renewal, and we meet once a week. I was out of town for 5 weeks, so I'm just now beginning again to give weekly presentations on this Google Hangout. And you can find a connection to this Google Hangout at my website, and the website is www.wholelifewellnessseminars.com. We also have a meetup group, which is called Sarasota/Venice Area Health, Nutrition, and Fitness Meetup Group. And there on the calendar, you can find all the events that will be going on throughout the fall and winter and spring. And there will be many added in this next week. Today's presentation has to do with the topics that people have been bringing to me recently. So I'd like to share some things as we just now have entered fall. Our nutrition changes a little bit by season. In the diffuse summer weather, people eat more lightly, often more sweet. And in the fall, we begin to have a little more focus as the air changes, the light changes, and the colors in nature in terms of the harvest are different. So in the fall, we might add more of the earthy colors, the wonderful things like squashes and cabbages, onions. The round vegetables are very helpful. The leafy greens that are, let's see, daikon and kale, burdock. There are lots of beautiful greens. Dandelion greens are lovely. And these greens can add a little bitterness to a lot of the dishes that we are serving. Use maybe a little teeny bit more oil, maybe a little more salt. So the fall really has a different feeling in terms of menus that we can add to our living, spice things up a bit. So today's topic, I will share a few recipes at the end, and you're welcome to ask me questions in the chat portion. Let me make sure that that's engaged. Q&A, connecting now. Give me a moment. Just want to make sure. This Google Hangout has been having some technical difficulties this entire week. I can't explain them, but it's telling me that for some reason the chat portion doesn't work. However, I have my telephone here, and if you wish to text me a question, I can give you my telephone number if you would like to jot that down. The number is 941-626-9763. And if you wish to text me some questions, I have some people who are texting in today some of the questions for this session. I have been carrying a group of people in my community in giving them very, very special water for many, many years, about 5 years. And in my community, there are a few of us who own a special machine that creates a special water. And that water is not only helpful to preparing dishes and hydrating, it also has been shown to change situations that people are experiencing in their bodies. So one of the things I want to tell you today on the subject of water is that many of the ailments we have can be somewhat alleviated or even eliminated completely by hydrating very, very thoroughly. So what I would recommend is that for a period of time, you find a source of water that's very high quality, and you drink what is actually more helpful to your weight. So in the case of the water I'm going to introduce today, I'm sorry for the difficulties that this Hangout seems to be experiencing. Google Hangouts is usually flows along fine, but this week I found it very, very challenging. Either the sound is echoing or the program. Okay, friends, let's see if we can get some. Dear friends, I'm not sure where you're finding us on this video live stream today, but I began this video 15 minutes ago, and the Google Hangouts is usually a very flowing program, but today we seem to be having technical difficulties, as we did 2 days ago when I rescheduled. So I don't know if you have heard the beginning portion of this video, but I will give you the rest of what I have to share. Today's subject matter is not only a few recipes that really pertain to this time that we've just entered, the autumn season, but I am very excited to share about a very special water that I have been sharing with my entire community for years. This water is produced through a machine that I own and that a group of people in my community have in their homes on their counters in their kitchen. These machines were created in a company called Enagic in Japan 40 years ago. And it was because of a man's vision. His name is Oshuro. And his vision was that the machines he saw in the Japanese medical centers, hospitals, and medical clinics were creating waters that helped in disinfecting people's wounds and helping with the medical care, as well as supplying a very high quality alkaline and microclustered electrolysis processed water. And what that really means is that the water was put through a process somewhat like lightning hitting the surface of a lake. And the water is then separated. The electrolysis creates both a very high alkaline water and a very acid water as it's off, the water is actually separated. And in this machine, you're actually able to collect the alkaline and the very acid water that comes off of this process. The high alkaline water at 8.5, alkalinity 9 and 9.5 are the drinking waters. And what he envisioned was if he could patent a machine that people could use in their homes, then people could have these waters available to not only be drinking every day, but also to be used in cooking, and also with the acidity that was also possible in the form of water that could come out in the acid hose. That water could be used for not only cleaning, but also for helping with wound care and other things that needed disinfecting. So his vision was able to be realized. And he went so far as to hire an entire town. And these are the people in Japan who are making these machines, and we are able to get them here in America. Over the last 5 years, I have had the experience of sharing this water with a huge crowd of people. And I've not only delivered gallons of water to people for weeks at a time, sometimes months and even years at a time, for those that didn't have machines, but I've also used it as part of my healing retreats, which are week-longs. And so I will take a group of people through an entire week of using the alkaline and the microclustered water to fully hydrate people for 1 week. And people are completely changed from having that amount of hydration. In this country, so much of what we prepare in foods requires that the body take the water we already have inside and use it to process in the form of our metabolism. Dear friends, are we back online here? We have had several interruptions. I am so sorry. I'm just looking here on my phone to see if anyone has sent me just a message that could tell me if the connection was good here. Okay. Oh, okay. I've just received a message from a gentleman who I met with, he and his wife, his children and dogs the other day at their home. We had a lovely time together. And he has been drinking the Kangen water that I have supplied to people in my retreats and workshops for many, many years, as well as giving out gallons of water to people in my community. And he's sharing here in a text that he would love to hear some kale recipes with fish. And he is saying that he has been drinking the Kangen water for a couple of days now and is seeing a surge in his energy and also a detox effect. So one of the things that this water does is to fully hydrate people, sometimes for the first time since they were very young. The diet here in America is such that almost everything we eat is very dehydrating. Our coffees, our teas, our dried processed foods, breads, pretzels, chips, all the things drenched in salt, so that would include all the canned soups and the processed foods that are very, very highly salted. So our diet in America, and then you have meat and dairy, for the most part, we're really drying ourselves out. And so one of the things I've promoted for many years is for people to become hydrated. When you arrive in an emergency room and you're helped there, once they've determined that it's time to hydrate you and you have no other more emergent situation to address, it's the first thing they do after that initial appraisal of your situation. And they give you an intravenous. So many of the conditions people are experiencing are due to dehydration. So people will go to the emergency room and say, my goodness, all they did for me was an IV and they sent me home hours later. The truth is people are experiencing the effects of dehydration without even knowing it. And the long-term effects of dehydration are all kinds of conditions that people have that are chronic pain conditions, constipation, and all kinds of things to do with headaches and even the long-term diseases. These can be helped by hydrating and receiving more wholesome foods that give you the proper nutrition, and then even sometimes supplementation with plant-based supplements is an extraordinary help to turning around the conditions people are experiencing. In my retreats, which are week-long retreats throughout the year, I have been giving people water all day for 7 days. So for the first time, sometimes people are experiencing a deep level of hydration, which changes the whole internal environment they are experiencing in their body. So when this man has called in and said he suddenly feels a surge of energy, to become hydrated immediately gives us energy. And the kind of water that I've been promoting is because I purchased the machine from the Japanese company Enagic quite a few years ago, 3 years now. And I have been able to, from my own cabinet, create bottles of water for people and deliver those. And those waters that are created from this machine actually hydrate in a way that you will not get from a regular bottled water. This machine, like I was saying about the electricity that hits a lake and creates an electrolysis process, this machine has an electrical current that works with the water in a certain way that creates a polarization, so very acid and very alkaline water. It also is microclustered, which means that the water molecules are actually getting into the cells, bringing nutrition into the cells and water and hydration, and then bringing the elimination out of the cell very easily. So this permeability of receiving the water more deeply into our system is what really is the remarkable effect of this water. So when we're preparing our foods with this water, Even our bitter acid drinks, you know, coffee is a pretty acid drink. If you add your alkaline drinking water from this machine to your coffee making, you suddenly have a very, very different drink. And this alkalinizing effect of this water is not just because it's alkaline. If you just were to create only alkalinity in your water, this actually would not necessarily have a beneficial, healthful effect. The special effects of this water is really the fact that it is microclustered, it is able to penetrate into the cells. Dear friends, I have never seen Google Hangouts have so many technical issues as they've had this week. I think this call has been interrupted, this video session has been interrupted about 6 times. I don't know what that does at your end, but I will restart from where we left off. Is just to say that the hydrating qualities of the Kangen water and what this machine does to the water to allow people to become hydrated more so than any other water they're getting from their tap or their bottled water is truly health improving. I have personally witnessed many, many people who started drinking this water and cooking with it and preparing medicinal preparations with it. And because they can take it in and receive it into the cells in a profound way, this transforms really the level of living. I've watched a whole group of people in my community who I've helped by supplying water to them for many years. And I've also seen it when we do the week-long retreats and the 12-week workshops. So I highly recommend that you join my meetup group. And if you go to the website, www.whole, spelled WHOLE, whole life wellnessseminars.com, and you go to my most recent newsletters, you will see at the bottom a link that takes you to many of my social medias. And one of the social media buttons is my meetup group. Meetup is a place where people can go online and find out what's going on in their area in ways that they want to be interacting with other people face to face in real time. And my meetup group is Sarasota/Venice area health, nutrition, and fitness meetup group. And if you go to one of my newsletters, and you can also sign up for the newsletter, subscribe to it. I send that out regularly. You can find at the bottom of any of my most recent newsletters, the meetup button. And if you press that and you go to the left-hand column to the calendar of events, you will find that in the next week, I'm going to be adding quite a few events to introduce Kangen water to more people in this area and really across the country. Our company that supplies the machines for creating Kangen water is the company Enagic in Japan. And I was sharing earlier about Oshuro, who had the vision to create a smaller unit than what he was witnessing in the medical facilities in Japan, a smaller unit that would be patented for people to bring into their own kitchens. And 1 out of 5 people in Japan own a Kangen machine now. This man's vision was global. He intended to share this water across the world. And he has quite a vision that's even beyond just health. Health in the sense of the physical body and our ability to create better health for ourselves. So he has a vision to not only spread the word about water, but he has also been growing a very interesting plant that many of you have heard about and that has become more and more of interest in the media. So this plant is very similar to ginger. Ginger is a pungent root used in medicinal preparations and in cooking. The turmeric plant is like a sister plant to the ginger root. It's also a root vegetable or a root plant that is used, also pungent. It's used all over the world. And Oshuro was aware of its medicinal qualities, being a Japanese man and knowing in the Orient and in the Middle East and in India, the turmeric plant is used very, very much. And in America, we use a little bit of turmeric in our cooking, but we were not familiar until recently of its profound medical and medicinal properties. Turmeric in the spring version of the plant and the autumn turmeric have qualities that mixed with other ingredients come into the body and become much more medicinal than just using the turmeric by itself in cooking preparation, for example. When you mix the turmeric, and in this case, Oshuro, the head of the Enagic company, he grows both the spring and the autumn turmeric plant, and he utilizes the most healthful ingredients of those spring and autumn turmerics. It's called curcumin, and that element is put together in a capsule that can be absorbed and immediately becomes bioavailable in the body. He's added B vitamins, essential oils, and minerals to this combination of spring and autumn turmeric. And in doing so, he's made it so that this particular plant with its medicinal properties can easily go into the body, and the effects are seriously profound. I was recently among a group of people where we were looking at the research. The research indicates that turmeric in this form that is more readily bioavailable, I think it was 95% effective in the body as something very, if you were buying turmeric at the store for a seasoning, especially in an American store, that version of turmeric is not going to have a lot of effect in the body. I think it was 5% effective. But when you use this medicinally combined, synergistically combined group of plants together with the oils, the vitamins, and the minerals that allow the body to receive the turmeric, and particularly the curcumin in the turmeric, into the bloodstream, then you have effects that affect a lot of conditions that many people are suffering from. So including, well, it's a huge number of ailments that people are helped by with this particular product. I wanted to show you the way that he has packaged it. I thought this was very clever. It's completely sealed, and it is a completely organic product, 100% organic. It's called Ukon Sigma. And they use the Kangen water. I don't know if you can see that well. There we go. Use the Kangen water. It's 100% organic. And they use the Kangen water not only with the plants in growing the beautiful ginger-like plants that turmeric is. They use the water in the watering of the plants, in the preparation of the soils, and even the fertilizers. So this plant is truly full of the vitality of the waters that they're using. As well, the Ukon the turmeric plants are grown in a very rich coral and seashell rich soil with almost an idyllic atmosphere on Okinawa Island in Japan. And this atmosphere and ecosystem and the soils they're using and the Kangen water really make it optimal, one of the best quality turmeric supplements that I'm aware of. Wanted to show you each one of these gel caps. They pop out the back end, and the gel cap is actually made with seaweed and Kangen water. And the gel caps then, of course, easily dissolve. Any of you who are significantly using seaweed products in your diet as part of your nutrition are receiving the wonderful minerals that are supplied in the seaweed plants. So when he uses this gel cap seaweed gel cap, this is easily absorbed and taken into the body. This is a food grade gel cap. And inside are the essential oils and the B vitamins that he has added to the mix and the minerals that help it absorb. So I want to tell you that the people who have been taking in both the Kangen water and this particular turmeric product have seen remarkable changes in many of their conditions. What I've decided to do is create some video on my live broadcast TV channel on YouTube called In the Kitchen with Alice. And that program is live on Sundays, and then it's uploaded onto YouTube. And I've decided to devote an entire section, an entire video, to an introduction to Kangen water and many of the more scientific side of the Kangen water, as well as just a demonstration. I have a friend whose life was completely changed by utilizing this turmeric product as well as the Kangen water. And he really wasn't familiar with changing his diet and actually having more healthful live foods in his diet. But his story is so interesting, I've decided to have him on my next video of In the Kitchen with Alice. So please join me on that. You can find me on YouTube. And In the Kitchen with Alice also has a link at the bottom of every newsletter, which you can find at my website, wholelifewellnessseminars.com. So I wanted to share that using the water in your preparation of foods is very, very profound. And because today is the first couple of days into autumn here, I wanted to share that during autumn, we tend to want to use more of the fruits and vegetables that are coming in at the harvest time of the year. Many more of the colors that come in autumn are the oranges and the deeper greens, a little more bitters, a little more maybe salt and oil in your diet. We want to use a lot of the vegetables that are the round vegetables that really are helpful to the round organs at the center of the body. So if we're adding cabbage and onions and even beets and let's see, all of the round vegetables are very, very helpful in the autumn. So I wanted to give a few recipes. I also recommend a little bit more seaweed, which carries the salt from the ocean, and also an amazing amount of minerals that are very, very helpful to us. Extraordinary, the research behind the helpfulness of using seaweeds, even to contribute to the dental situation that people are experiencing. So I'd highly recommend that you add a source of kelp to your diet. I have been working with a company created by a man named Larch Hansen in Maine, and I think he's called the Maine Seaweed Company, and he has a remarkable packaging of family pack versions of kelp and about 4 other dulse, wakame, 4 other seaweeds, and they come in large packages, and it's very inexpensive, and it will sustain your family for maybe up to 2 years, that amount of seaweed. You can also share it with a group of people if you wanted to go in on that. Email me at any time at alice@wholelifewellnessseminars.com, and I will respond and give you his information. But adding high quality mineral seaweeds to your diet is an extraordinary thing to do to turn your health around. Many of the people who are over 50 who have not had maybe high-end dental care in this country have really suffered the loss of the teeth from the halfway point back in the mouth, and are losing their chewing surfaces at younger and younger ages. So it's very, very important that we give sustenance in our nutrition, our daily nutrition, to support the bone and calcium levels of the body. So I will also be addressing some of these on the YouTube channel In the Kitchen with Alice, and also at our upcoming retreat, which is in October 15th through the 22nd. So if you would come to that, I will be sharing on very specific dental help to support what people are experiencing with their teeth these days. Back to the seaweeds, I have a few recipes I'd like to share, and then I'd like to get back to questions that are coming in. Let me take a quick look here. We have a number of messages, so let me just quickly see. Okay. Some people are responding to the fact that the session has been interrupted because of the service on Google Hangout this week. Okay. Alrighty. I wanted to share with you that in preparing seaweeds, often we want to soak them, and soaking them in Kangen water is amazing because it's so able to enter into the plant life, being made up in its structure the way it is. So the recipe I wanted to share with you has to do with a question that someone had brought to me about pickles, and sometimes adding a little more salt and a little less of the sweetness that we really experienced in the lighter eating of summer with all of the fruits that were available. In the autumn, it's sometimes nice to do some pickling, or for those of you who are cooking, to do a flash process on some vegetables, a light cooking process that is sort of like a boiled vegetable dish. So I wanted to share both those two recipes with you for those who are interested in adding just a little bit more of the salt to their diet and the wonderful qualities of the minerals that come from seaweed. And for those who are doing a raw food diet, I would like to share a recipe of a woman who was looking to really give her husband something to thoroughly enjoy his salads. And in the summer, she does a light, leafier salad with maybe more fruits and maybe even a few more nuts. And in the autumn, she adds more density to her salads. And she wanted a dressing that the taste would be very familiar to him. So it was a creamy ranch dressing that I'd like to share with you. And we seem to have about 14 minutes left on this session, so I will do that. In future menus and tips, I will give more extensive, as we advance toward the holiday season, more extensive recipes as I was doing previously. And so let me just get to this, this boiled salad. For those who are doing macrobiotics or still cooking using a standard American diet or a more traditional diet, where they're adding maybe some fresh raw foods, but still doing cooking is one of the main ways of preparing the food. There's this wonderful boiled vegetable dish that has a tamari ginger vinegar dressing, which is really, really lovely. Nice dish for autumn. One would take, in this case, Kangen water and prepare 4 cups of it to boil. And just at the point of boiling, to add in some onions that were sliced or even quartered into the boiling water for 30 seconds only, and then taking them out and putting them into a bowl. You leave the water in the pan, and this time you put in chunks of a whole green cabbage head. And so you want to chop it into quarters and eighths, and then also put that in the water, and this time maybe for 1 minute in the boiling water. And then scoop out your hot cabbage that's been just given a quick boil. And then you can do the same process with carrots. And it's nice in the autumn to chop the carrots so they're in round sectionals. That's a nice way of chopping the carrot. And then putting the carrots in for a very short cook, maybe 2 minutes, and then quickly taking them out. And now you can keep the water, because the water has now absorbed a lot of the nutrients from those vegetables. Because you did not cook them long, the vegetables still retain their nutrition. And then you want to add about a tablespoon over each pile of serving of the boiled vegetables. And the dressing consists of a few tablespoons of soy sauce, which is basically a soybean fermented salty soy sauce. I use tamari, and people often buy the wheat-free tamari at the health food store. Shoyu is also another name for a wonderful quality soy sauce. So you use a little bit of soy sauce, and then you grate your ginger, and you add a teaspoon of ginger, fresh grated ginger, to the soy sauce, and then a little bit of, for those who are raw, apple cider vinegar, and then just some minced vegetables of those 3 versions. And if you're doing the boiled salad, then you can use a brown rice vinegar is actually very good with that dish. So it's the soy sauce, the ginger, and the vinegar that mixed together make a wonderful flavoring for this wonderful dish that's colorful and beautiful and very, very lightly cooked boiled vegetable dish for autumn. My next suggestion for an autumn dish, which I think adds wonderful enzymes for digestion and is also adding a little bit of salt and a little bit of the nutrition from sea vegetables, is a pickled kombu and turnip pickling dish. If you take your turnips and you slice them lengthwise and then in half, and you place them, make very thin slices of the turnip, and then you soak your kombu, which is a very thick seaweed, in the Kangen water for about a short time, 7 to 8 minutes. And then you take it out of that, and then you slice it, because now it's absorbed the water, it's no longer dry. And you slice it in thin slices and place it with the turnip slices that are very, very thinly cut, and place that into a salt-based pickling press. You can also use a bowl where you put a plate on top with some weight on it. And if you left those for 2 days, in Florida, I would leave them in the refrigerator. You don't want them to be growing anything when you leave them out on the counter, but if you put them in the refrigerator, then these pickles will be a delicious addition to any plate that you're serving for your autumn family dishes that you make. So those are 2 that add wonderful qualities of somewhat changed salt that's more bioavailable, as well as with the pickled kombu and turnips, the seaweed that helps with remineralization. I wanted to tell you then next about this wonderful cultured ranch dressing. If you take 7 cups of water, and in this case, I'm using Kangen water, and you put it in a blender, and you add 1 cup of almonds to that, and you blend it thoroughly, what you will have is a frothy almond milk drink. And if the almonds are raw and you want to buy them from the local farm, if you're in the Florida area where we are living on the West Coast, about halfway down, there's a farm in Sarasota that has high quality almonds that have never been irradiated. And they're raw almonds that you can buy at Jessica's farm stand in Sarasota, Florida. Anywhere else, you just want to research and find out where your almonds are coming from. Many years ago, most of the almonds coming out of California were irradiated, so you just want to do a little research on that. If you take 1 cup of almonds to 7 cups of water, and especially Kangen water, which is amazing to work with in your nutritional preparations, and you blend it to this frothy milk, if you pour it through a cheesecloth or through a strainer, it will leave behind the almond pulp. That pulp is what you can make a yogurt from. If you take the pulp and you set it aside with either a little bit of a yogurt culture or a probiotic powder, and you can even add another cup of raw cashews if you wanted, or pine nuts. Some people use different things, different nuts, and you put together about 2 cups of the pulp, and you mix it up with the probiotics, maybe a little lemon juice, and you let it sit for a couple of days in the refrigerator. It will turn into a yogurt. It's called a nut yogurt. And if you take this nut yogurt and you put that together with about 1.5 cups of fresh coconut water, which means that you puncture the coconut and you drain out the milk. It's called coconut water or coconut milk in the center of a coconut. And you put that together with about 4 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice. Let's see, what else are we? Salt and ground pepper. And you add a little pinch of salt, maybe a teaspoon, and a little bit of pepper, freshly ground pepper. You do have, Jerry, I'm still on the call, so I'll call you back afterwards. You then have a wonderful combination of tastes. The nut yogurt adds a little bit of that sour, and then you add in your lemon, again, a little more sour to it. You add the salt. The wonderful Kangen water is very helpful to the whole dish. And you add the little bit of pepper, and you blend all these ingredients in the blender, and you have a wonderful creamy ranch dressing. So for those of you who are raw, or those of you who are adding some fresh ingredients that have not been cooked, so that the live enzymes are still very vital in whatever you're preparing, that is a wonderful dressing. It gives a sense of a dressing that people are very familiar with in this culture, in the standard American diet. So that makes a real treat for any of the gentlemen who are in your family who enjoy a creamy ranch dressing. I mentioned the gentleman because the woman that created this dressing created it for her husband because she was introducing him to more of a raw diet, and he thoroughly enjoyed it. So sometimes we want to somewhat mimic the taste that we have in all these wonderful recipes in the standard American diet and the cooking that comes from traditional preparations all over the world. And then we have the spice of life. So I hope you have enjoyed today's session. I really wanted to introduce you to this wonderful Kangen water. Kangen is the word. And this bottle is made to indicate that the drinking water that most of us are using at 9.5 alkalinity, but it's really water that if you drink it, it will change your life. So I want everyone to investigate people who they might connect with who have Kangen machines, perhaps find out how you can get a Kangen machine, and at least connect with a community that will provide water for you so you can try it. And then this wonderful supplement that I have discovered in the last few years, Ukon, and made from the wonderful spring and autumn turmeric from Okinawa, the island Okinawa. And anyone who has questions about the seaweeds and the turmeric plants in Okinawa in terms of their purity, the main seaweed company where I promote most of, I really highly recommend this company. The waters are tested there for any contamination that might come through the oceans. People sometimes had fears from, for instance, Fukushima, the event there. So the man, Larch Hansen, is very particular about the waters that he pulls the seaweeds from, and he tests them. And in fact, he created a boat. He actually teaches he brings people as apprentices into his collection of the seaweeds, and he teaches people how to collect them from the ocean and dry them and package them. And he has a whole community based on this seaweed gathering. And he's in these very, very pure Maine waters. And he takes his group out on a boat that is made of wood with vegetable oils on its outer portion and no paint, and no lead paint, no any paint that would chip off into the waters and contaminate them in any way. And he does not use a motor, so there's no gas and oil going into the waters. So he is very particular and caring about how he treats the waters that he is harvesting these seaweeds from. So so the waters there are very pure, and the growing of the turmeric plant, which is a tuber and grown both the spring and the autumn versions of that plant on the island of Okinawa. The island is very far from the currents that went from Fukushima and across the globe. So those currents do not come anywhere close to where they're growing these beautiful, beautiful turmeric plants. So I am so glad that you joined us for menus and tips for Nutritional Renewal, which is an ongoing session that we have weekly, and that you can find us on YouTube and Google Plus under Whole Life Wellness Seminars and .com, which is my website. And you can find our meetup groups and the events that show up as live streams on Google Hangouts. Those are indicated on my meetup group, Sarasota/Venice area health, nutrition, and fitness group on meetup.com. So come join us there on the calendar at Meetup, or you can go to YouTube and find In the Kitchen with Alice, and you'll also find these videos uploaded weekly from now on through the fall, winter, and spring. So I look forward to seeing you here regularly. Thank you so much for coming. I have a fall retreat coming up in October, so see my website for those details. I would love for people to come out, and I will be teaching all kinds of health protocols to truly revitalize your living. Thank you so much for coming out, and I look forward to seeing you next week. And I will also be addressing more questions that might come in the next few hours. People often have questions following these broadcasts, and I will share the answers next week on next week's live broadcast. Thank you so much for coming.